Okay, we are recording and shortly we'll be sharing screen.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. If you don't know where you're at, which would be weird, you're at a 3 Jules virtual course on an overview of Buddhism. Yeah. And so we call it the Great Ideas of Buddhism Part 2 because there's 3 parts, 60 hours. And most of you have signed up for the whole thing, which will take us into February next year. And it began, I don't know, 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago with Javier and me. And now it's Priya and I, and then it'll be Rachel, and we'll do part 3 of this. But I wanted to remind us of what it is that brings us to investigate and what it is that we at 3 Jules are presenting here. So we're presenting from the Asian Classics Institute, ACI, course 17. Yeah, that's what's at the top there. There are 18 courses. It's a summary of what Tibetan Buddhist monastics learn over 20 years. And we teach it over an 8 year period, 7 to 8 year period at 3 Jules, usually 10-week courses. And so you're lucky in that this is a very, very, very condensed version of a 20-year curriculum, which got condensed into a 7 year curriculum, which is now condensed into 3 months or 4 months. 3 months, right? So if we have a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
4 months. And so I thought I should mention it because every really heady thing we talk about, every detail which has tons of implication, is supposed to be applied to the way we live our lives. It's supposed to be imbuing the way we think, the way we speak, the way we act, the things we do. With If it's not doing that, it's just may as well read another book. It's just another thing we're learning, another gadget, another shiny object we're collecting. And so at 3 Jules, we're really passionate about going, can we create a bridge between 2,500 years worth of spiritual knowledge, Buddhist practices, wake upism, Buddhism, and apply it to what's happening to me today, right now? When I wake up in the morning and I feel grumpy, this content should be pushing to the foreground of our mind, saying, that's right, I've got to take refuge, or whatever we've learned. Oh, that's right, I've got to think of others, bodhicitta. Oh, that's right, I've got to think of the wisdom behind this action, this thing that's happening. I've got to remember it's not happening to me, that my mind is engaging with it and creating or fabricating a whole existence around it, karma and emptiness. So I'm saying that at the beginning because we're in the part of the course where Buddhists have already agreed on a whole bunch of stuff, and now we're finding the fine detail. How do you really tweak very particular natures of our mind with power, like with vowed morality? You're saying, I promise to look at my world this way. I promise, take a vow, to do this kind of action. I promise to try. And with that promise, everything gets amplified in our experience of being, which means the courses for our freedom get strongly imprinted in our minds. And that's the whole point of doing these things. So I'm happy if you like to know which author wrote the commentary to the blah, blah, blah. It's vital to know, especially if you want to have firmness and a strong foundation. But if you're not applying it to the next time you get angry and try and do something different, or the next time you fall in love and try and remember something different, then it'll just fizzle like every other shiny object. But that's the main thing I wanted to say before we started the class, that each one of you have a rich and powerful life. Like your world, every little box here has a unique experience of being. And these teachings from the Buddha and all the Indian masters and all the Tibetan masters that wrote all these commentaries, all the monks and nuns that practiced all these things, left us clues on how we can speed up our own personal transformation of a world that otherwise seems normal and will eventually fizzle, and pain will come, if not aging, sickness, and death. And that's not to be macabre, but it's to be real. Yeah, you can work your entire life And at some point, you're going to have to let go everything you collected. The only thing that will be left in you is the state of mind you habituated over that life. And if you haven't habituated kindness, guess what awaits your own experience in the next moment? And if you haven't habituated freedom or the attempt to understand the nature of existence and the recognition that everyone seeks happiness, then you're going to have to experience what you've put in your mind subconsciously. And so this course reminds us and asks us to intentionally work our minds. So every day we snowball the most extraordinary experience possible, because the experience we're having of life isn't coming from the pen to us, but from us to the reality. And then every single practice matters. Every moment of your mind matters. And this class tonight, which is the closing of the Bodhisattva vows, is just reminding us, keep some promise to transform your world. It's up to you. Buddha's not going to do it. If they could, they would have already done it. No one's coming to save you. Sorry. They really aren't. If you haven't noticed already, just go to a nursing home, and check that out, or go to a morgue and check that out. No one comes to save. Yeah. And so it is possible for you to turn your mind and really transform the experience that you're about to have tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And then at some point, you won't say life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that frets and struts his harp on the stage and then is heard no more. You might be saying something, life is miraculous. You might even say, what you guys call death is miraculous, because it's ecstatic in my mind. But that's stretching it, right? But we're in the middle. So I wanted to say that that's the motivation with which we should hear these things. So give yourself this 2-hour window to think of yourself and the thing we're doing here as perhaps being an extraordinary invitation to really, really step into your power. That's what I wanted to say, Supriya. And to do that in a ritualistic way, we usually begin with the intention that the imprint of our mind of what would what universe be like with everybody being freed from suffering and in its place experiencing ecstatic bliss. And that is this mandala offering. Can I create a world, a mandala, at least in my mind to start with, where every being has reached an ultimate happiness? So do you want to do it, Supriya, or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I'll mute myself.
Sashi Pugi Jixing Metok Chum Rira Lingshin and Gampadi Sange Shindu Mikte Wargi Drokun Namdak Shimla Druparshim Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayam Sangye Chiram Sogi Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chinyan Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Drupasham Sangye Chiram Sogi Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chinyan Gipe Sanam Ki Jola Penshir Sangye Drupasham Sangye Chiram Soki Chokam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kapsu Chi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Drupar Shum.
Awesome, thank you. Okay. So we've gotten to the point where after already at the very beginning of these classes told us if you want to reach a state of freedom, enlightenment, beyond nirvana, Buddhahood, if you want to have a rapture of existence beyond the ups and downs of samsaric or cyclical life, where good things turn to bad and bad things turn to good and good things turn to bad, and there is no end to that roller coaster. If you want to do that, the first class we took, Tsongkhapa in the 1400s said, you have the Buddha, the summary of the Buddha's teachings tells us we have to develop 3 states of mind. The first one is called renunciation, where you are sure there must be something else behind all this stuff. Something else is at work because it doesn't seem to really work the way that I've learned to manipulate my reality. Have you ever noticed that being nice doesn't always make things good? Apparently in the next moment, and being bad doesn't always bad result. Sometimes you've lied and gotten away with it. Sometimes you've lied and gotten caught for it. Sometimes you were kind and people rebuked you, and sometimes you were kind and people loved you. So the apparent cause and effect of moment to moment isn't what's making things work. But I told the truth and no one believed me, or something like that, right? So something is amiss and somehow we're blind to it. And the Buddhist teaching says you have to renounce the idea, get rid of the idea, get frustrated with the idea that the normal way of approaching life isn't really working. Medicine doesn't always cure, otherwise everyone would be living forever. Something's not working. It appears to work because it works sometimes. But if it works sometimes, it doesn't work ultimately, because it doesn't work all the time. It's like chance. And for Buddhists, that's not how existence happens. Chance has nothing to do with it. Everything is caused. Every changing thing is caused. Every time something happens, it was produced by something before. We are not sure of what caused it in the way we currently live. Buddha said, it's your karma. It's the stuff in your mind. It's the way your mind moves that engages with reality, and that's what makes it work. And because we are blind to that, we are lost in appearances, in trying to get away with lying, whereas lying is producing the causes to be lied to, and we can't see that. The cause and effect is also true in our mind. So at the beginning of this course, Tsongkhapa and the Buddha said, you got to renounce the old way of approaching life. Without that understanding that things aren't always working, so there must be another way, you'll never find the other way. Without that energy to go look for another way. And that's called renunciation. It doesn't mean go in a cave forever and become, I don't know, newt? No, something. Don't become whatever you become in caves. But that's also not enough. He said that's not enough. To look, you got to get inquisitive about a different way to make things happen. That's what renunciation is. Energized, excited, like Einstein almost figuring out relativity. He got it wrong thousands of times before he got it right. That's renunciation. He's like, no, that's not working. That's not working. It's got to work another way. We have to have that for this class to be meaningful. We have to say there's got to be another way to create ultimate happiness for me and others. And then the next thing he said is like, you have to develop this wish to wake up, but not just for yourself, but for everyone around you who's also hypnotized by a misunderstanding of the world. And then he's like, none of those things work unless you understand things don't have a nature. They're empty of a nature. The nature is forced upon your reality based on what you've put in your mind, karma, what you said, what you thought, and what you did. And your mind is recording, and that is actually the flowering of your reality, because things don't have a nature. A word will be interpreted bad by some people, good by others. It's not in the word. The word doesn't have any meaning in it. The word, it's just sounds. But our minds are imputing quickly meaning to the word. And some of you are going, oh, the word. And some are like, shut up about the word. You're all having your own experiences about the word. That sound, empty of a nature. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist that way by itself. It needs you, and you're not even trying to give it meaning. It's just got the meaning for you. That's karma, that's emptiness. That's the key that makes all these Buddhist practices work. Please remember that. Yeah, when things aren't working, we're not understanding, because karma and emptiness is perfect cause and effect. Whatever's occurring must have been caused, but it's not this way, it's this way. Something's in me, I got to change it. If I see harm, stop harming. If I see love, give more love. Like, duplicate the thing that's happening from your mind. Take responsibility for the world around you is what this means in Buddhism. Now, doing that in one single human lifetime will not transform your entire existence, not in one life. There's a lot of shit to transform. Like the fact that we're aging, like the fact that we have to sleep and have nightmares and we don't know where they came from, the fact that love is lost here. Like, we get in love and then it doesn't. These are facts. The fact that nutrients don't sustain us when we get older. It's not arguable. It's a fact. But because those things are realities, and they're realities from us, and we've renounced that eating healthy food alone will transform me. Eating food alone only works if it's got my karma to make it work. So I've got to plant the karmas that feed or nourish others for any food to work. And at some point, you won't even need food. Are you getting the picture? Can I get thumbs up if it's meaningful? Now, if that's true and you've bought into that and you're in the middle of this course, then you want to speed up the process. You're like, I got no time to waste. I'm like Hector, my hair's falling out, the karmas are growing hair in the wrong part of my face. I gotta go. Come on, let's wake up now, right? So it's a sense of urgency. Not only me, look at what's happening in this country. People are fighting. Look at what's happening in the world. They don't know that every time they hate someone, someone will hate them. They don't know that every time they think someone's stupid, they're planting seeds that you will be seen as stupid. The world doesn't know that. That's compassion, yeah? And an action to take on compassion is bodhicitta, bodhisattva. I want to wake up, get enlightened, for the sake of all this world of mine that I was part of, that I'm still part of, yeah? And to do that fast, we take vows. We take this solemn, we get married to the idea that I can wake up. Yeah, it's our wedding day to our wish for enlightenment. Vows. Why vows? Because our attention is heightened. I promised. So next time you want to punch the old lady because she's walking too slow in front of you, your vows will stop you. You're like, don't hit her. You can rub her a little, but don't hit her, right? Or that there's one cookie left in the cookie jar and the skinny Stephen is enjoying the cookie, and fat Hector's tummy is like, damn, if he doesn't see me, he won't know that there's another cookie there if I finish it. He won't know. You stop that mind, yeah? Day to day, we do these aggressions to our world, and these vows, these promises, the marriage of us, our minds, to this wish to wake up for the sake of everyone will keep us alert. And that alertness, that bigness, is a much more powerful karma that must ripen into a world that's equal to the karma we're planting. Yeah, and there's 18 root vows, there's 40 something vows altogether. These are very finite tunings of the quality of our mind. So that's why vows are important. And in this class, we talked about the main vows last class. In this class, we want to look at, okay, if that's true, if acting in this way is really going to transform my mind faster, I better know what breaking a vow looks like. What would break that promise? What would cause a divorce between me and the wish to wake up? And if you don't know that, then you might accidentally break your vows or break that marriage. Yeah. I hope no one's offended with the marriage thing. So it might be question 3 on your homework. There's 3 ways to break your vows, right? Holding wrong views. And again, I invite you, think that everything here is referring to an actual process or reality we live. So what does it mean for me to hold wrong views? And simply spoken, it's the idea that things have a nature, mostly. Yeah. The wrong view that reality, doing something out there, will change my reality. The only thing that changes your reality is doing things in here. What you think, what you say, and what you do. And holding that someone out there will come to save you, it's already holding a wrong view. Because there might be someone that comes to save you. You might get a teacher. That's happening. That's a reality. You might even see a divine angel. No problem. But it will never appear separate to your projection of it. It's possible to walk into a cave and it's just stinky, wet cave with shadows. And someone next to you is like, oh my God, I just saw an angel. And for those realities both to be real and true. Because cave is empty of that nature and our minds create that reality. So holding wrong views, two classic things, not believing in cause and effect. What I put in is what comes out, cause and effect, thinking that there's no consequence for me thinking bad about the old lady who's walking slow. Every moment of mind will have a consequence. So stop your shitty thoughts and plant stunning thoughts and promise that'll make that faster. Yeah. And the other one is not believing that something continues, that somehow when you're dead, you're free from all the things you put in your mind. Mind won't stop. Consciousness will continue, like the atoms of your body will continue into something else. And whoever the bastard is who gets your mind, that they call themselves them, which is you, they get your presence that you sent them from this life. We already did past and future life. So you inherited, hopefully, some goodness. If the words we're saying in this class is waking you up, you're like, oh my God, that makes sense. I can see the blueprint now. I have some power. That's what it means to transform. Of course, nirvana is possible. Enlightenment is possible. Wow, I'm so cool. Someone left you that present, right? Because you probably didn't do it this life. You think you did, but you didn't. Right? It takes a lot to get that kind of virtue. Someone left you a present, or maybe you as a child helping someone get some wisdom gives you some wisdom now. So that's wrong views. That's an easy way to break your vows, because with that wrong view, you can still do all the nice Buddhisty things, but you're placing your refuge on the wrong thing. If I do the hand gesture just right, baby Buddha will listen to me and I'll be saved. It's not going to happen. Unless your mind really understands that enlightenment is an experience forced upon you by your past actions, no one's coming to save. So I can wear my robes just perfectly. If you're doing that with the right motivation, it could save you. If you're doing that same thing with the wrong motivation, thinking that's going to save you, you're just doing more samsara, people. It just looks nicer. All people are going, oh, very nice. But yeah, I hope I'm not being too harsh, but I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. Wrong views will destroy the promise. Ultimate wrong view, thinking things have an existence separate to you, that there really is a pen and that the dog is wrong, that is not a chew toy for them, and that that object holds some nature. I think that's good for that. Giving up the wish, like you can formally go back to your vow master or mistress and say, you know, I don't think I can get enlightened. Definitely not for the sake of the old lady who took my cookie. So I want to give it up. I can't do this. There's too many old ladies in my life. Not enough cookies. I want to give it away. So you go back to your teacher and you say, please take back these vows. I've seen people do that. Okay. And it's predicated by a misunderstanding. So you sort of got to have wrong view in order to give up the wish to wake up, because it means you forget that because things have no nature, they're empty, you can actually transform. And then the other one is breaking root vows with the four chains present. And we'll cover the four chains, right, in a second. There's four states of mind that need to be present for you to actively break a promise. If you don't have wrong views, if you don't, like if you're trying to put correct view into your actions, if you're really trying to engage in the wish, you don't have to have it, you got to try, right? And you don't have these four chains present, you are not breaking your vows. You're in fact growing the courses for enlightenment. And the four chains are hard to break. Okay, so it's not as hard as it seems. I know it's heightened because we're like, for me at least, when I first got vows, I waited 10 years. I'm like, I can't do this. This is too hard. I sort of wasted 10 years being afraid of making a promise. Now I'm trying to catch up. There's a vow where you have to, under extraordinary circumstances, you have to break a rule. You might have to break a vow if it's going to be of greater benefit to someone else, right? And so if you've got bodhisattva vows, or if you've taken them, this is really exciting for all of us bloody individuals. It's like, I can save the world by not doing any of the vows that I just promised, and that's how I'm going to get, and that's not true. So we highlight it because it's important. There might be times where keeping your vows might not work for the sake of every living being. You might be caught between a rock and a hard place. And only at that time, which is hardly ever, should you break a vow of body and speech. You can never break a mental vow. Yeah, you can't never break the idea of karma and emptiness. There's no excuse for thinking reality isn't the way reality really is. Like there's no reason for that. And so there's a whole commentary, there's books, there's commentary upon commentary about the type of person who this vow qualifies for. And it's an extraordinary person who has practiced for a very long time, who has got bodhicitta naturally, like uncontrivedly understands the emptiness of everything and this wish to wake everyone up. And, like, it basically means you've practiced for thousands of years and you're almost at the peak of enlightenment in this lifetime. And then, plus, you've got to have some clairvoyance. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that I know I don't have. And if you're on planet Earth in 2020, you're also unlikely to have, at least from my karma, right? And so Ken Rinpoche, my teacher's teacher, who came out of Tibet, he's like, forget this one, it doesn't apply to you. That's basically what he said to all his monastics. Yeah. I think that's that. Here are the 4 chains. This is, again, remember, this is supposed to be in our minds as we're taking the cookie from the old lady, right? And pushing her cane away, doing the bad thing, doing the bad thing. I promise to free every living being, but there's a cookie and this lady between me and the cookie. And the only way you can convince yourself that if you had the cookie, then you'd be closer to enlightenment. So it's okay to push her, and you'd be wrong. Yeah, you'd be wrong. So these conditions, all 4, have to be present for you to break a vow. So what was the first vow? What was the first root vow? Does anyone remember? Just unmute yourself and say criticizing others, praising myself and criticizing others. Did someone say that?
I saw Kelly going for it.
Criticizing others.
Oh, thanks, Anthony.
Criticizing others.
Is that Tala or Chloe? No, that's Chloe. You have the half of that vow twice. Criticizing others and criticizing others. Yeah, there's a bunch of us doing that. So let's take that vow as an example. Or does anyone want to give me another vow that you'd like me to do the 4 chains to? Let's use that one. Okay. And this is particularly important if you are sharing something that's really special for you. So what I've noticed over the years, me included, right? Buddhism is like the most radical, awesome wake up thing I've ever met in my life. It's really the most stunning elixir to undo any poison we've got in our minds. It really works like that kind of medicine. I can geek out on it for the rest of my life and I wouldn't want to do anything else. And so we get really excited and then we want to go and look at how other people share these Buddhist practices. And you're like, they're not doing it as good as I am doing it. I am telling people properly how they can wake up. Some people are not doing it that way. And so it's particularly heightened when we share things that are important to us, right? Or, I don't know, if you're running a country and you lost an election or something like that. I don't know. Is that too political? It might be too political. Sorry. The idea If the key, right, the key I keep saying is karma and emptiness. Karma meaning the action of what I say, think, and do. Yeah. That creates an imprint in my mind. That imprint, that seed, must take root and then ripen into my projection onto a reality sometime in the future, because things around me have no nature. The nature I experience around me comes from the things I've put in my mind. Karma and emptiness is the key to every vow, everything in these practices. So if I praise myself out of selfish desire, right? Like I want to benefit. So I want to praise myself. Hector's so special. Like he's really quite special, this guy, Hector, right? And then criticizes others like the Dalai Lama, I don't know. He's old school. I don't know. I could perceivably find reasons, egotistical reasons to criticize a great teacher out of personal gain, right? Let's say I did that. Hopefully, I'll never do that, right? Let's see if these four chains apply. That's already a bad seed in my mind, right? But I promise not to praise myself and criticize others in order to have personal gain. It does not mean if I see someone teach something that will harm people, it does not mean I should just let them do it. I should correct them, but I shouldn't hold this idea that I'm better and you're worse. Yeah. Does that make sense to everyone so far? Yeah. Cool. So now let's see. Let's say I did that, or Supriya teaches with me, right? I'm criticizing Supriya in my head. Yeah. Let's say I'm not. I'm praising you in my head, but let's pretend that I would criticize you. She's showing off. She's trying to be better than me. Yeah, or something. She's like, yeah, duh. I'm already better. So, am I willing to do that thing again? This is a clue. That's one of the chains of the four chains. Is that present in my mind? Or did I notice, oh shit, like I felt horrible just mentioning that I might be better than the Dalai Lama. Just that, mate, using that as an example tightened my chest. And I'm like, oh, don't even say it as an example. So I know I don't have that. But imagine saying that you're willing to say it again and again. Then that's one of the chains. If you're willing to commit that deed again, then you're 1/4 of the way to breaking that vow. Yeah. Then if you have no shame or consideration, those words get misinterpreted in the West, but basically it's like, are you willing to take on that identity? Is that something that you have no personal shame to say, I am that kind of person that criticizes the Dalai Lama. Like I've got no shame about it, right? Do I have any, like if nobody was watching and I was like thinking about it on my own, would I have no shame at all about it? And if I don't have any shame, I'm half of number two. Yeah. And then consideration of the impact to others, right? Like, let's say I really believe that, yeah, that, that I'm better than Supriya, because I'm not going to say the other one. Yeah. Let's say I really believed that. And in my own heart, I believe that. But I understood that saying that in public would harm maybe Supriya or other people that really see Supriya as a great teacher. If I have a moment of that I want to protect others, consideration for others, then I haven't broken the vow. I haven't broken the vow. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. It doesn't mean you didn't do a shitty karma, by the way. Yeah, it just means you didn't technically break a vow. It means that you're not severed from the result of this great vow. Um, did you derive a sense of enjoyment? You're like, ha ha ha, I showed them Supriya suffering out there. Did you get a kind of enjoyment out of it? Then you're a third of the way there, and you don't even consider it to be wrong. You're like, no, this is the right thing to do. Shame her in public or gaslight her or whatever, So those are the four chains. It's hard to hold those things because if at any moment you have a tiny bit of regret, like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. What was I thinking? If you have that at all, you're not breaking the vow because you either have shame or consideration. I just want to make sure that you understand a couple of things. This is fine detail of years of practice and commentaries and the words of the Buddha saying, this is what will really, really harm this precious wish that you're developing by taking vows. So it's highly unlikely you will break a vow. But walking around the city going, oh, Supriya's not so great, Hector's the best, will harm your path to enlightenment. It's still a bad karma. You just have not technically broken the vow because you still got tension on it. Yeah, and it's developing something, it's changing our behavior. So it's vital to know when it is that we break a vows, and it's unlikely to have those four chains. Is this me too?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you did break the vow, you can retake them. And in fact, you can retake them at any time sort of to renew them. But Tsongkhapa says you're you're not going to get to see emptiness directly in this one lifetime if you do break a vow and then make a habit of restoring them and restoring them and restoring them. Yeah, not in this lifetime. So you won't get the benefits in this one lifetime of having kept the vow. So don't try and break them so knowing that you can retake them. This is not going back to church on Sunday, okay? Which is what I was taught when I was younger. It's like, oh, you can do anything you want, really. So long as you go on Sunday and do your confession, you're good. And I really was taught that as a young kid. And it didn't seem right to me to live outside my ethics and then pretend on Sunday that somehow someone restored it for me. It is possible to restore your mind. It is possible to minimize negative effects of karma. But doing that over and over is not the way, because you're spending what, 6 days being a shithead, one day pretending you're not. That will have that result in your life. Yeah. Looks like I'm swearing a lot today. Um, so don't do it. Just work. If you're committed to waking up and you understand that making a vow or a promise is going to speed that up, do it wholeheartedly and joyfully, knowing it's unlikely that you're breaking these vows, especially if you have kind of shame or consideration or regret. And know that you're also going to screw up. So don't add negative self talk to your efforts to get out of suffering, yeah, which is something Westerners do all the time. You're not taking vows to feel like shit about yourself. You're doing that before vows, okay? If you're taking vows, you're making a promise to analyze and work with your mind, and whatever's going to come up in your mind, that whatever came up in your mind before you took vows will likely come up in your mind after you took vows. But now you've got a heightened attention and promise to work it. So I'm saying that because for years when I got these vows, I got myself into a kind of Buddhist depression that I'm a piece of shit. I didn't do good. I'm a bad person. And so what karma am I planting? What it took over. Yeah. It took over the what should have been a freeing experience. I turned it into a narrowing, smoldering experience. And then you have to work hard to transform that, because that's why you're taking the vows, to change that. And first it'll come up, you keep working at it with confidence, because things are empty. Everything I do, including how you think about your vows, will have a result. That's my story. Did I do okay for time? Probably not.
No, yeah, you did perfect. When you were speaking just now, I thought about IKEA furniture. Uh, I actually see this
Thanks for
analogy.
paying attention.
No, I was.
I'm
Hear
joking,
this.
I'm joking.
Really, really hear this. So, like if anyone here has tried to assemble IKEA furniture, right? You have the image of the final product in your mind. You have an idea of what it's supposed to be, and you have some conviction that this set of instructions will somehow get you there, right? Even though if you were to just look at the instructions, especially IKEA ones with the little dude that they have, sometimes you see no connection, right? Between how could I do this sequence of steps and then get the result that I want. And I was thinking about there's so many metaphors there, but with retaking your vows, it's sort of like if you've ever tried to assemble IKEA furniture and then disassemble it when you're moving and then reassemble it and then disassemble, like it's functional, but it's worse for wear. And I sort of think retaking your vows, it can feel the same way. Obviously, the repercussions are a little more profound because it has to do with the direct experience of emptiness and not just the comfort of a chair. But just to share that. Okay, so let's keep going.
I love that. That's really awesome. I'm going to steal that.
Okay, great. It's yours. So I loved what Hector was saying about your vows are like wedding yourself to the happiness of all beings. You're marrying yourself to your universe and the future of your universe. And so if I have any understanding of marriage, you know, when you get married, it's not just, okay, how are we not going to get divorced, right? It's not just how are we not going to separate? It's also how do we make this marriage flower and flourish? And so that's what we're getting into now. These are little et ceteras, or the cherries on top of the bodhisattva vows that you formally take. And they say that this is actually what turns the practice on. You know, so if you have your bodhisattva vows and you're like, where's the magic? When's it going to happen? Maybe you can check in with some of these et cetera vows that are like the engine, because they're working at the mind. I mean, they're all working at the mind level, right? Of getting this stuff to work for you. So it's not just a list of things you're doing. So one of those things is called the 4 points in the practice of virtue. And basically, these are, as I said, these are offenses against the wish, aka bodhicitta, the wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. It's like going against these things is damaging that wishful state of mind. And they're very simple. They're saying, I would ruin my practice of virtue if I responded in the same way when someone yelled at me, got angry with me, harmed me in any way, including physical, or criticized me. And I want to be really clear here, this vow isn't saying that you don't respond in this situation, right? It's not saying if you respond in any way to when this happens to you, when any of those 4 happens to you, that you're breaking your vow. It's not saying that. It's just saying if I respond in the same way, if in my mind, when someone's criticizing me, I think the way to stop that sting is to criticize them back. Just that impulse, that in itself would be breaking this practice, right? It does not mean that if I am being physically harmed, that I become a doormat and I'm like, no, this is my Buddhist bodhisattva vow practice, I will not respond. You do respond, just not in the same way. And why, right? Not just because it's a list, why? It's that understanding in your mind. It's that King of Kalinka example again, right? It's understanding that this thing that I don't want to be happening to me right now was created, and it was created by mistake. No one goes into their world being like, I want to create people that yell at me and criticize me, even though I'm just trying to get through my day. No one is thinking that. It is some mistake that I'm putting into motion that then appears as something criticizing me. And the worst thing I can do in that situation, if I want more criticism in a steady stream in the future, the best thing I can do is criticize them back. And maybe I don't say it, but I could think it. That's what I often have to work with, right? So that's what this is saying. It's just that it's undercutting that tit for tat mindset that we have and saying that is the most un-bodhisattva-like mindset I could have. I don't want to have people criticizing me. I also don't want to see people in the world that have that negativity in their own mind. So what am I going to do? If you need to just be quiet, do that. But otherwise, you try to respond actually in the opposite way. Someone criticizes you, you actually find a way to praise them. Maybe not in the moment, but praising others is the only way that I'm going to receive praise. So that's the practice of virtue and the 4 points of the practice of virtue. Then these are, again, some cherries on top of your bodhisattva vows. They're the white deeds and the black deeds. The black deeds being the ones you'd like to avoid. And they're in conversation with each other, the white deeds being the antidotes to that, right? It's the thing you don't want to do versus the thing you do want to do. You get to work on both sides. So the white deeds, never speaking a lie, even in jest. That's the first one. You want truth? You want to see this thing Hector keeps talking about, the true nature of reality? Stop lying to yourself, to others, in your mind, verbally, jokingly, with the motivation to deceive. So never speak a lie, even in jest. Actually, I'm going to put both of them up so we can speak about them in pairs. So the idea is that white deed is the partner to the black deed of actually intentionally deceiving someone who you perceive as holy. Someone, right? People aren't holy from their own side. Not everyone thinks of His Holiness the Dalai Lama as that, His Holiness. For some people, he's just a dude who's really cute and lives in India. I think he's really cute. I can't help but see that. But whoever you perceive as holy, whoever you perceive as a teacher, actually intentionally deceiving them. That would be it. Hopefully it's obvious why that would create a terrible ripple in your own mind, right? You, the bringer of truth into my life, I am going to create this wall and intentionally deceive you. Huge karmic result. So if you feel like you're getting close to that, you have this white deed where you can instead go around and be like, every word I say will be true. If it's not true, I won't say it.
That should keep most of us quiet.
It's like that thing my mom's, yeah, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. It's the same thing with truth. That's this first pairing. Now the second one, and you might feel like, oh, I never do this, but I think if you dig a little bit, at least if I dig a little, I do. Causing another person to regret a virtuous deed that they have done. And again, you might be doing this to yourself. You ever had an instance where you felt really good about some decision you made or something you did, and then that same mind can turn it, like can completely distort it and tell you like, God, Sophia, you're so, like, what were you thinking? That's me to me, but you also do it to other people. Maybe to their face, you're like, wow, it's amazing that you set this goal and you did it. But in your mind, you're like, God, why did that happen for them? I'm trying really hard. Why isn't it happening for me? And you might even say something that causes them to regret. Oh, you quit your job to follow your dream? That's bold. Hope that works out for you. Any sort of undercurrent there, right? Of causing them to regret something that you know that they did with beautiful intention. That would be the black deed here. The opposite of that, the thing that would destroy that negativity in your mind, would be actually bringing others to strive for the bodhisattva ideal. And I want to be clear here, this is not proselytizing bodhisattvahood, right? This is not going to everyone and saying, hey, you should come join me on Tuesday and Thursday evenings in this class called ACI Dharma. If you feel like that, if you truly feel like inviting them, do it. I'm not saying don't. But here, I used the example last time, right? When I use examples from work all the time, because for me, that's my bodhisattva playground. But when someone comes up to me and says, hey, Supriya, how do you think I get to the next level in this organization? How do I get that promotion? Review season's coming around. And in my mind, as I give them quote unquote professional advice, I'm thinking about how could they promote their consciousness, right? How could they not just get the next job title, which, as Hector said, will end at some point? There will be there's always going to be a higher job title, a better job title. But what if they could get to a state of mind, in their own mind, no more promotions needed? The top of your game, consciousness level, that's enlightenment. So as I'm giving them the professional advice, which I'll give them, I'm also secretly planting seeds to be like, hey, well, maybe you should check in on your team. Maybe you should check in on this new person who just joined. Maybe you could support them a little bit. Knowing that I am actually giving them on a tray the causes for their own enlightenment. I'm allowing them to see themselves as a bodhisattva. Like, what a beautiful thing to give someone. So that's the white deed here. Then this third one is great. Saying something unpleasant to a bodhisattva out of anger. So hopefully the first question that comes into your mind here is, well, how do I know if someone's a bodhisattva? No, there's no labels. It's not, how do you know if someone's taken on these vows? There's no way to know. And look, the people you think might have taken them, who knows how they're keeping it, right? Like, you just have no idea. So hopefully this puts you into that position of this sort of suspicion that you get of like, wait, are you a bodhisattva? Maybe you're a bodhisattva. Maybe you're telling me you haven't taken bodhisattva vows yet, but really inside you've completely made those commitments. You never know So really what this is saying is don't get angry at anyone. Don't judge anyone unless you want that, again, boomeranged back at you tenfold. And the corollary to this practice is so beautiful. It's basically recognizing that one of the tragic byproducts of the ignorance in my own mind is that it keeps me from seeing my world and the people in my world as something that's not normal. Something other than normal. Like, I'll just share, like, right before this class, I was grabbing a soup so that I wouldn't be hangry during Dharma class. And I had exactly the experience Hector was talking about. You know, it's this little outdoor kiosk. There's two guys there making the food. And my mind is like, can we hurry up a little bit? You know, I have 10 minutes. I need to get to 3 Joules. I need to log in. And I completely saw them as normal. I saw them as normal, dilly-dallying, talking to each other rather than preparing my food. This vow, if I had this vow in my mind, which it popped up because of you all, it popped up. I was like, wait, I should be doing something else here. I should be thinking those hands that are touching those raw materials that will then heat up and somehow become nourishment for me. Who are those people? Who are those hands and that just sliver of attention that somehow are intertwined with my experience of reality? Thank you for allowing me to pause in my back-to-back day for a second and think about someone else and think about how it's not just me in this reality. Seeing them as pure is part of that. It's seeing that potential. Who is that person that's feeding me? What are they feeding me? So that's this practice. It's really beautiful. And if you take anything away from this slide, take that one away. Seeing everything as teaching you something, revealing possibility. And then the last one, just want to make this is different from the first one of never speaking a lie, maintaining an attitude of total honesty and free of deception. The key here is actually, if you look at number 4, black deed, acting in a devious way towards anyone without a personal responsibility for their enlightenment. That's the key part in this vow. It's saying now, anytime I'm engaging with anyone, the metric that's going on in my mind is, how is this conversation, how is this text message, how is this voice note going to get them one step closer to their enlightenment? I feel responsible for it the way a mother feels responsible for her child progressing through school, with that degree of responsibility. That's what's important about this vow. And so that's what differentiates it from the just not lying. I need to move a little bit faster, but I hope you see that there's like magic in each of these. And so like, this is a practice you can take. The white and black deeds, you automatically get this when you dare to call yourself a bodhisattva. Okay, this one should be pretty straightforward here. Again, number one thing in my mind or anyone's mind I talk to when they're considering bodhisattva vows is, well, I don't feel ready yet because I think I'm going to break them, right? Like Hector said it. And so the idea here, it's so beautiful. The commentary we're given is like, cool, let us present to you from all the different angles how you could break them or why you could break them. And here's how you can avoid that. It's like doing the work for you. They've thought of every possible scenario. So that's what we're going into here. These are the causes, they're saying, the primary causes for actually breaking your vows. And lo and behold, we actually get the antidotes to them. So you can feel really confident when you take these on, like, no, I'm not going to damage these. I'm not going to have these 4 chains come and ensnare my mind and clog me up from bodhicitta. That was a weird metaphor. Okay, so the causes for breaking your vows, the primary one, Hector went over this, is just not knowing what they are. You have absolutely no excuse to have that happen. You can become a master of your vows. And that means understanding the details of what each actually means. And it also means having such a strong personal connection with each, that when you just hear a vow, you get like a personal montage of all the times you've tried to put that into practice. You become friends with your vows. That's what it means to master your vows. It's not just memorizing the small text underneath the vow. Then the second one, this can be a cause for breaking, especially your secondary vows, not the root vows, but you're careless, lazy, or just forgetful. And so here, the idea is Don't be lazy, careless, or forgetful. Actually develop a habit of watching your mind. Don't just let this thing run all day, all night, ad nauseum until it ends, or it seems to end, but then it just keeps continuing with that same inertia. So you actually, that's the practice of mindfulness. That's really what it is. You actually catch yourself, you check in with yourself as often as you check in with your social media, and you bring yourself back. It's the open eye meditation. That's what vow keeping is, all day long. Then the third one, you know your vows, you know that that these promises could help you, could not just help you, but help your world. And you instead let yourself succumb to negative emotions, right? You're like, oh no, I know that I should, let's take the one of respecting towns and countries, which can sound weird, but it really means look at the space around you and realize that the way you relate to it is the way it's going to appear for you. Don't take it for granted. I can speak very candidly to this because for a long time I thought home, clean apartment, beautiful abode came from paying rent, right? Paying rent is cause of beautiful home. And anyone who knows me knows that for like the last few weeks, I've been living off the kindness of Dharma sisters. They're just living in their home. They've just opened it up to me. So is paying rent the cause of home, of a complete, beautiful abode that I can feel comfortable in? I have to ask myself that. And the answer has to be no. It has to be something to do with how I protected property and space and walked around New York City. Every time I stopped myself from littering, every time I opened up my home, that's the only thing that could create that experience. So if I know that, but still I let myself just succumb to negative emotions and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna let their place get kind of dirty. You know, they're not here, they'll never know. That would be what breaks it. And here you become a warrior. Sometimes you hear bodhisattvas as warrior saints, and I like that. There's a ferocity there. You become a warrior. You identify what is your worst mental affliction. What's that thing that keeps coming and knocking in your mind that's pulling you down? You identify it and you go to war with it. And you say, nope, not today. And you just need to develop that habit of pulling yourself back or not succumbing to it. And then lastly, it's losing respect for your vows. That would be a reason that you could get close to breaking them. You just don't even care anymore about breaking them, right? Like if you have some fear about breaking your vows, it's actually a great sign because it means that there's a sense that there's something important here. It's like why you don't break a pinky promise. You're like, no, your heart rate would rise if you even thought about it. So that's the last one. You forget that these are the personalized instruction manual for me to get to enlightenment. And it may seem confusing. It may seem like IKEA instructions that don't make sense. But can I have a conviction that if I follow them in the right order, I'm going to get a result? I'm not the only person. I'm not the first person who's created that, who's followed that set of instructions. So that's the last one. I'm going to speed through these things because we want to give, I think by 8:40, if we get you into breakout rooms, we should be good time-wise. So here, this is again going, hopefully you feel a little more uplifting. You feel assured that you're not going to break these for real. If you've done this groundwork and then you decide to take them, you can decide sweetly and know for sure you're not going to break them, right? Like you need this intention and malevolent glee. I think of like Disney villains, right? Like it's that level of conscious malintent required to break a vow, right? You're like, it's like what Hector is doing. It's like that, that gleeful feeling of wrongdoing. And that, I just don't see that coming into your mind. But anyways, this is the opposite. How do you keep them well? How is the marriage the most beautiful love story ever and not just a marriage for marriage's sake, right? And Hector, please chime in at any time with these.
Yeah, my summary is just don't get married for the money. The bling will go away.
Yeah.
Do it for love.
Okay, so here, this is actually, yeah, it's beautiful to think, you know, maybe when you first read these vows and the commentary, you're like, okay, you know, they need an update. What's the 21st century version of them? Or you read them and you thought, wow, these so apply today just the way they did 2,500 years ago. Like, I absolutely think that putting someone else down would cause me to inflate. right, in people's minds. A totally applicable situation to right here, right now. Or the one around like lying or exaggerating your spiritual attainments. Totally applicable right now as it was 2,500 years ago. No update needed. So the idea in this first one, how to keep them well, is recognize that these vows are spoken by someone who used them to climb to enlightenment, right? Like they're the rungs on the ladder that they used to get to that state of mind. They're personal instructions. They're the voice of an enlightened being to you. They don't need updating. They completely apply as they are. The only updating they need is your relationship with them, is you putting them into practice. So
And
that's the first, yeah.
that's what I'm going to add.
Yeah.
For all these things, if you can think, if you already understand the idea that every imprint of your mind will have a consequence in your reality, then imagine the consequence of actually understanding that there is a being who has reached freedom, that they were not in freedom and then transformed their lives, and that this is personal instruction for you. Imagine that seed in your mind ripening, right? It it binds you for 2,500 years to thousands and millions of practitioners who themselves have reached a state of freedom. So that's a very strong karma rather than, oh, I'm just wanting to get happy. You're getting personal instruction, not just from the Buddha, but all the other people that have shared their insight. So you're being, the karma is you're speeding up your, so, and you got to plant that seed as much as you can stretch your logic to believing it with reasoning, right? Because that's the strongest imprint you personally can put in, and the same will apply to all the others.
Yeah, and I can share just from experience, sometimes it really does feel like they're the messages from God, whatever you call God to be. And I say this just because, for example, I'm lucky enough that with a Sangha that has these vows, we actually, like, they pop up on our phone 6 times a day. We have this WhatsApp group. It's done for you, those little 6 reminders throughout the day. And more times than I can count, I'm about to walk into a situation and the vow that pops up is perfectly applied to that situation, right? Like I'm about to type an email and the vow I get is regard every single word as Dharma. I'm like, God, how do they know? What is this thing that's going on? And that's when I get this feeling of, wow, this is a message that, I mean, it's a message I sent myself a long time ago before I was called me, to be like, hey, it's not normal. Use it all. Use every email. So that's this first one. Then the second one, this is sweet. You can keep them well if you remember why you took them, right? And the only reason to take these vows is to think, to know that you, yes, you can get enlightened for the sake of all beings, and that you'll actually do it. You're not just going to take this class for the, academic exploratory reasons. It's not just mental masturbation. It's, I'm going to do this. That's that's essentially the 3 intentions. I'm going to follow the vows. I'm going to get enlightened. And why am I going to do it? So I can help limitless beings, love limitless beings, stop seeing them as people that are taking too long to heat up my food. That's boring. Then how to keep the vows well, actually take the vows based on those first 2 steps. It's all it's so like logical, right? It's like, here, let me walk you through this. That's it. If you take the vows based on number 1 and 2, you can have a confidence that you will be keeping them well. Don't take them for any other reason. Then the 4th one is respect your vows as if they were your most valuable possession, because they are. I mean, maybe like think through now, you have maybe a mental spreadsheet of all your possessions and their value, right? What's your personal net worth right now? And then add a column to that spreadsheet. How many of them can you take with you after you die? How many of those possessions? How much of your net worth? These Bodhisattva vows in particular, they continue with you after the moment of death. That sprout of bodhicitta, if you just can get it once, it's there. It's there for then lifetimes, limitless. It's just a matter of how quickly you can water it and nourish it so it becomes an experience. But that's the idea here. There is nothing else that is more precious than this state of mind, and then the thoughts that and actions and words that support that state of mind. That's what your vows are. So think of them that way, right? Like we tell, if the house were to be on fire, what would be the thing I grab? I hope it would be my vow book. There's nothing else that can get me out. My passport can't get me far enough away from samsara. The vow book can. So that's the fourth one. And then the fifth one is very logically based on numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Avoid breaking your vows. And hopefully, I liked when Hector was saying earlier that this feels like something radical. Like ever since taking my vows, I sort of, when I see nuns or monks of whatever tradition out on the street, I like see this spark in their eyes now where I'm like, oh, they're total rebels. Like they are just saying F you to normal, and that they will reconfigure their whole life and way they exist in order to honor that understanding. Like that's so badass. There's nothing more rebellious than that. I see it now that way. Was it always that way? Did I create it to be that way? The answer to, yeah, you can extrapolate, but it's cool. Like I hope that's the way you can think of these. And if you don't, that's fine. That's what we're going to end with before our breakout room activity. This is important. If any of what we just shared, the idea is not like, okay, in order to pass this course, you need to take your vows. In order to keep hanging out and staying connected to 3 jewels, you need to take your vows. Nothing like that. Have you allowed your mind to just be open enough to hear something new, maybe, to receive something? And so it's very clear if there were any doubt that came in your mind, where you're like, I'm not ready for that, or that vow I'm not so into, don't discard it completely. Don't denigrate it, right? Just shelf it. That's what Lord Maitreya says. Just leave it for the time being. Be careful not to actively reject it. Because the more I actively reject things in my mind, right, saying that things are a certain way or are not a certain way, the more limited my experience of reality is, right? I reject things, I limit things, I will receive rejection and limitation in return. So that's the essence here. Shelf it. And I want to be clear, this does not mean that you're not allowed to investigate things. The idea of here being lazy doubt, not going to get you anywhere. Active investigation is encouraged, if not required, as a good Buddhist. You have to ask yourself, wait, what am I doing these promises for? What would this really get me? How could I actually put this into practice in my life? That is like a knife that cuts through that ignorance, that cuts through those 4 chains of negativity. Okay, that was a lot. Anything to add, Hector, before we go into the breakout rooms?
Yeah, look, I'm glad we did a lot, right?
Yeah.
And know that this a lot is a summarized version of a summarized version of a lot, a real lot.
Yeah.
So, people have spent lifetimes thinking about the nuanced consequences of our actions, karma, and these particular ones. They really are wings for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing else, I hope you got the understanding that whatever your mind is aware of doing, then you can amplify that impact by making it into a vow. So hopefully you get that.
Yeah. And so we really hope that this breakout room activity, you can, again, I mean, it's always amazing. I feel like you're all quite vulnerable and able to be open with each other. We ask you to every week. We'll ask you to again right now. So what we're going to do is break out into rooms and essentially here create a bridge between what it is you want and be as candid as you can. If you want a better apartment, say that. That's what I want. In the next 6 months, I want a better apartment. Then the activity is, how can you connect that to one of the vows, right? Because sometimes the connection might not feel intuitive. It's not normal to think this way, that if I do something in my own mind, if I do something internally, then somehow something outside will reflect that back. That's what we're saying is this technology of karma and emptiness. So we're here asking you to make the connection between something that you want in your world and then what specifically Bodhisattva vow practice would create those causes for you to make it happen. Hector's going to hopefully share the part of the reading that has the, no, you're not going to do that.
I deleted it off my computer today and I forgot we're doing it as an exercise.
I know I meant to remind you. So,
I can do it quick. Does anybody have the vows in front of them in a digital format? Or maybe I can share now. I'll go share it now. I'll do the
everyone, you will at least have one bodhisattva in each group, and it looks like many of them have physical copies of their vows, so they can start offering something. But we will, and if anyone has the reading close by, the reading has all the vows listed. So
actually
I have it.
how about you go back? Does anybody have the download from yesterday? Yeah.
I have it.
Oh, Ninon, we'll open up the share.
Yeah.
Can you put it on the chat?
we'll do that. Yeah, Hector, you're host.
I just did it,
Amazing.
I think.
No, I can't. Okay. No, it's okay.
I just did it, yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna pop.
Is it? Maybe there's someone out there that is just a perfect thing to hear. So you're planting your own seed of actually giving wisdom to someone so you can get more wisdom.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Eden. I was in group 1, and what I asked for, like what I've been searching for and what I would like to see come to fruition in the next 6 months is finding a mentor and having just that deep relationship. I'm sorry, my group has heard this so many times now. So, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and immediately what came to mind was the first vow, which is like praising yourself and criticizing others, and thinking of the ways in which I can think of the teachers and the spaces, learning spaces that I've been in before, of thinking of those spaces as gifts that have been given to me and not, actively or speaking out, like criticizing those spaces. And Supriya mentioned there's 2 other ways that I can manifest a mentor, and these 2 we learned tonight that I think are things that I'm gonna like actively take out of this class, or sorry, out after this space will start to integrate into my life, which is when someone asks for advice, you give it, even simple task, and that struck me a lot because sometimes people will ask me for help on simple thing like you got it instead of just sending out that help, and then seeing everyone as teachers, and this kind of relates to another person in our class that was talking about teaching virtual yoga classes to 2 folks, and I feel that because I do that too, and our smaller classes. But I feel like when I really show up presently in those spaces, I learn so much, even in the smaller classes. It is much different than the in-person 70 or 100 folks. I feel like I'm learning so much from them that I wasn't learning in those bigger spaces too. So yeah, so those are my things.
I love it because if anyone here doesn't already have a teacher, you can use those instructions. Or if you want to keep the teacher you do have, the teachers you have around, you need to keep that karma going. You need to keep renewing it so that it's a beautiful way to do it. Thank you. Let's move to room 2. We have Pavan, Michelle, Tiffany, Alyssa, that room.
Hi, I can speak for our group mostly because we got cut short, and we didn't like pick a specific person to present. So I thought I'd just sort of give some highlights from what went on.
Okay, in less than a minute, please, Sarah, so we have room for everyone.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through everyone. Don't worry. I'm just going to say that we found a lot of the first 3 vows as being something that applied to a lot of the things we had going on, from versions of how do I get more material, like, I've been having financial problems. How do I get that clear? Or how do I bridge my 2 worlds of the business thing and the spiritual side of things, and to how do I deal with noisy neighbors? Those first 3 vows came up a lot for us, and there were other things too, but those seem to be repetitive of giving material things and being mindful of how we criticize and praise others. Yeah, so that was an overview.
Cool, thank you. There's lots of cute small beings on this call. That's we're distracted. Um, that's perfect. I love it. I like that idea of bridging the different parts of your identity, because for me, the vows, my practice of vows is like that metronome underneath everything. So, you know, when I'm showing up to a work meeting, it's different than when I'm showing up to guided meditation, but the internal rhythm, the why, is the same. It has the flavor, hopefully on a good day, of bodhicitta. So I love that. Okay, Javier's group next. I know you'll keep us speedy. Stephen, Nino, and JJ.
We also didn't define who was going to talk. So anybody else but me wants to talk? Maybe Tom, Stephen, Champagne? No, I'll talk.
Yeah, just talk.
Okay, I'll talk. So we have like 100 things that we went like this. It was crazy. No, we touched a little bit on like, well, you know, somebody wants to be in a specific place financially in 6 months, financially and time-wise, so practice and financial stability could be in place. And then somebody else said like, oh yeah, that's similar to what I want. So we talk about the vows that are concentrated in the secondary vows that are concentrated in the giving perfection. And then we talk also about wrong view and correct view, holding correct view and wrong view. It came up like almost every time that we spoke. And because it makes sense, right? Like it's like the number one thing that needs to come to mind before you even look at the vows.
Yeah.
And we talked about, yeah, like if one wanted to more teachings or to get better at certain meditations or whatnot, to make sure that you help other people get Dharma teachings and make sure that you don't get on the way of other people getting teachings, whether it's Dharma teachings or the teaching that they're just seeking. Because at the end, our Dharma might not be everybody else's Dharma. And that was about, we talked also about watching other people's having their accomplishments and the pride that can come out of that. So like in a way, like how do you help someone else accomplish something because that's what you want for them? Mm-hmm.
We also just started to talk about COVID.
And then you guys were like, oh no, let's come back to the room. We were about to solve it, like by a second. Tomorrow we were all going to be free from COVID and we couldn't.
And yeah, my bad. I love the reminder, when in doubt, just to do the wrong view one, or apply the opposite of wrong view, correct view, right? Correct in that it will get me closer to being free from suffering, not like right versus wrong, just correct in that it is not mistaken. It's not creating the suffering the thing that put the suffering there in the first place. That's always, you know, in your arsenal. And like Javier said, it's the first thing you actually have to apply to everything. Because if you're just doing the karmic math, right, of, okay, I want something, I'm gonna help someone else get it, and it becomes cold and calculated in that way, it's actually not gonna work. Or you might get some result, but you'll also get the result of not seeing the magic and possibility and everything, and not having your heart open, which is also what wisdom is. But let's keep going. Room 4, Anthony, Deirdre, Maya and Diego, Ming and Lena.
I'm going to speak for room 4, Supriya. So we had a couple commonality things. So we had one person that was in the middle of a project and they wanted to make sure they finished the project. We had a lot of people looking for job or job changes. And then we had also people looking for new living situations, new apartments and stuff. And Hector gave us a great, so we immediately went to all the vows of giving and also the correct view. But Hector had a really good insight that I wanted to share. So he's like, with the people looking for a new job, right? You're not really looking for a job, right? You're looking for some abundance and resources so that you have the freedom to do other stuff. So it's like applying the giving vows, but taking it one step further and not stopping and thinking, oh, I just want a new job. Like you really want freedom and abundance from having the resources. So I think that was really nice insight, and I'll leave it at that so we can finish on time.
I love that. That actually came up in a group I was eavesdropping on. And I think part of the Bodhisattva practice is actually becoming a very deep, active listener and being able to hear underneath people's words what they really want.
Sorry?
Even under jokes, right? When someone's getting you to laugh, what are they really doing? That they're bringing out joy in you. That's a Bodhisattva practice. It's saying there's what I hear you saying you want, and then there's the thing underneath that. And it's always enlightenment. It's always wanting to be free completely from suffering forever. So that is a Bodhisattva, that becomes your Bodhisattva practice, hearing for that. And then I think the duck is going to speak for Chloe's group. Sorry, I caught you off guard. I was distracted in the duck saga. But Chloe's group is last, or no. Did we just go? Was that Chloe's group just now that we did? No, we're on group 5. David, Elizabeth, Zoe.
Yes, I don't know who the duck is.
Chloe has a duck.
Yeah, wait, can we talk about that?
Can you show the duck so that people don't think I'm insane? More insane.
There is no duck.
No, there wasn't.
It's all from your mind.
Empty. It's an empty duck.
Okay, fine. I was showing the baby. Sorry, I was distracted. Duck.
There's a duck.
Okay, I'm going for our group. We had a lot of the similar themes that other people have discussed so far, which is people wanting financial success and people wanting clarity around their work, and also areas of discipline in their life. And so a lot of the giving vows also came up, and then ultimately correct view came up as a way of like keeping in mind that the things that we're experiencing now are a result of something, and seeing them that way as they come up and making different choices to hopefully have a different result in the future.
Cool. Seems like everyone was really into the giving vows. As a reminder, the secondary Bodhisattva vows are organized around the 6 perfections. So you can, and giving of which giving is the first. Okay, so let's do room 6, last group with Sydney, Kelly, and all. And then if she's up for it, I'd love for Carly to share her story. It will be a way for us all to rejoice together before we formally dedicate class. So first, room 6, Kelly, Sydney.
I'm the spokesperson for room 6. We had a lot of the same themes. We talked a lot about financial stability, so I won't repeat. We touched on a lot of the stuff the other groups have mentioned. The one thing I'll add is we did have some discussion about that sense of financial stability is also about no longer having that feeling of lacking, like needing money in this case. And so how to approach it also from that way around planting the seeds and mental patterns around seeing abundance in your life. So that's just one more flavor I'll add. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about it tonight, but I think it's an important question that someone asked that I pass along, which was, as we think about giving, how do you handle the balance between giving to others and yourself? So I don't know if you guys want to address that now in a couple minutes, or maybe tackle it another session.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is giving to others is what creates giving to yourself. Like it literally is that. The only reason I like inhaled a sandwich during the breakout rooms while you all were in your rooms that Hector saw, I was just like inhaling dinner. But the only way that otherwise empty substance could nourish me is because I put food in someone's mouth. It's literally that correlation. There's time in between. So I don't see it that way, but I can actually share. It was an eggplant panini, Zoe. It was really good. And she asked. It makes me think of and I'll bring this up because so many people were talking about financial abundance and like a business mindset, which as 3 Jewels we get to do as a team. We're making this place viable and exist. And very consciously, you know, we asked ourselves the same thing. Okay, in 2021, it'd be great if we were profitable. We could stick around and keep offering the stuff that we do. And when we asked ourselves, okay, then what do we need to do to get there, right? Businesses ask themselves this all the time. Should we change our pricing? Should we launch a new revenue stream? Should we go to our donors? There's lots of strategies. And what we decided to do is let's make all of our classes completely free. Like if you've been around with us for a few weeks, you saw that transition happen where we announced, hey, everything is completely by donation. That was a karmic move. That was us saying we want to be around in 2021 and 2022 and onwards. We don't want to be another wellness center that has to shut down and another community that's left floating. So, and it was the Bodhisattva vows at an organizational level, knowing that if we were to, it doesn't make any business sense, right? To make all your offerings free. But what we did in our mind, in the collective 3 Jewels mind, was plant a seed of generosity. We're just going to give it away. And lo and behold, the donations pour in, right? People sign up to be members who weren't otherwise before, or who were before, and they up the amount that they give because they're like, wow, you all really stand by what you talk about. You're not just saying this stuff. So that's an example of it kind of coming to life. Hector, anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, just in relation to Kelly's thing and to actually everyone's group. Whenever you hear a sutra, and even when we do the prayer, you hear 2 big things, right? Because of emptiness, correct view, may I do this act of giving and the rest, the 6 perfections, but giving's always first because we want stuff. And the only way to get stuff is to give stuff. So that's why you're going to see giving and the rest. The first of the perfections is giving. We are obsessed with needing stuff. We think getting stuff is by grabbing it away from people, which is actually the way to lose stuff. When you see, I want the promotion, I'll have the cookie. We're planting seeds of lack in our hopes. That's where it's messed up. It's upside down. In our hopes to get stuff, to receive stuff, we get stuff. And that is planting the seed of having stuff taken. So that's why you'll see giving and the rest, or the focus of giving in the Diamond Cutter Sutra. It's all about the giving, assuming that all the other perfections are there as well. But it's because we all want to be happy. We all want to reach some abundance. We all want. And the only way to satiate that want is to satiate someone else's want, right? With wisdom. And so all of your groups got both of those perfect. Like, it felt natural that all of you should gravitate to giving and wisdom, giving with wisdom, because giving alone won't do it. Giving alone won't do it. So thanks for the reminder on 3 Jewels. We're now completely by donation. If you can donate for classes, you're helping someone else take all these courses and classes, to trainings and the rest. And if you want to be a member, be part of the community, that this is some activity you can do. I'm not selling 3 Jewels, but I want you to know that for me, giving the last 10 years of my life solely to 3 Jewels and working on the side, I've been able to afford to do that, is the power that I got from these teachings when I bumped into 3 Jewels by mistake, transformed the trajectory of my life to a place where I could find happiness in what I knew in the past I felt suffering. And they gave me the tools to figure it out. And that's why I'm doing it. So you're all invited to come and play and be members, donate. If you can't donate, hang out, teach, learn, do whatever you can to be as generous as possible with the thing that matters most to you. For me, it's 3 Jewels. And that's the only way you keep it. You can't keep it any other way. I think that's the only sort of rah-rah last thing. I'm motivated because I'm so excited to hear every group went giving and wisdom, giving and that's the only way to get what you want. You want something, then give it away. It's radical.
It is. Okay, I'm gonna have, I wish Gabe were still here because I really wanted him to hear your story, Carly, but we will all enjoy it and let whatever emotions wash over you and expand them in our final dedication. But her story, that's the flavor. So if you can, rejoice for her and with her.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to tell it as succinctly as I can, because even from last week when I told Hector and Supriya the first time, little bits have been added. But basically last Tuesday's class was really profoundly impactful for me when we were talking about habitual responses and versus acts of truth. And Gabriel, who hasn't been here any of the times that I've tried to talk about this, I can't wait to tell him. He was in my group and really helped me come to a much more clear understanding of my own habitual responses and how I could provide this karmic antidote with an act of truth. Feeling at this time in my life a lot of fear, not knowing where I'll be moving, what job I'll have, how I'll make money, etc. My habitual response was fear. And before I quite understood the concept, I said that my act of truth was, instead of fear of the unknown, I was practicing acceptance of the unknown. And Gabriel very sweetly said, can you broaden that bigger than yourself? How can your act of truth be beyond you? And he helped me get to this point where I realized, oh, okay, how can I meet other people in fear? How can I be of service to other people? How can my act of truth be bigger than me, serve other people that are in fear? And it just kind of like blew my mind in that moment. And I set the intention that night. I was like, okay, I want to be of service to other people who are experiencing fear in their lives. That's what I want. How do I find afraid people? I don't know. No more than 48 hours later, I woke up to an email from a job that I had applied to months before that I had at this point forgotten about, offering to teach virtual yoga and mindfulness to teens and young adults who are struggling with mental health, including fear, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. And to me, it was just this like, oh my God, the universe has been listening. This seed that I planted with that intention is beginning to ripen right before my eyes. And I accepted the interview. I had it on Friday. I was offered the job yesterday, and I just taught my first class. And it was so beautiful. And yeah, I really feel like, I have this opportunity to be of service and to meet others in fear. And it does feel bigger than myself. And I'm really grateful that all of you helped me get there. So thank you.
That's so stunning. Thank you so much, Carly. It really is magic when you get those moments. It gives you a kind of certainty. Keep playing, y'all. The road is beautiful, covered in roses, depending on your karma. Okay, should we take it away?
Yes, you can please start and I'll get this going.
Let's dedicate that goodness. Imagine that kind of feeling we just got from Carly. Imagine that reaching everybody's heart and staying. Sashi Poki Jishin Metokram Rerolling Shi Nyundegam Party Sange Shindu Mite Guargi Droken Namda Shinla Chupar Show Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryatayami Gewa di gewoken Sunam yeshe tsok shin Sunam yeshe lejun wei Dampa kuni topar show. Thank you so much, everyone. I thought I'd add that little spice at the end.
See you Thursday for a change in mood. We're moving to Death in the Realms.
Yeah, Death in the Realms coming up. Bye, Danielle's little one, neighbor.
Thank you.
Bye. Not saying it again. Bye.
Bye to you, little dinosaur.
Oh.
Thanks, everyone. So sweet tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Carly, that was stunning. I hope we're all there in your next class, in your mind and your heart, reaching out. Thank you for sharing.
I felt you guys.
Good.
No.
No. Thank you, Supriya.
Thank you, Hector La.
Thank
Is
you.
Julia still in the chat? Are Maya and Diego here? How does Julia get a meditate hoodie? She's asking. Do we still have?
We just messaged her. We sold out last week, but we do have enlightenment sweatshirts on the website.
Isn't there an extra large, Maya?
No, that's the sweatshirt.
The ones that JJ's model.
No, it's not.
No, the crew neck.
The crew neck. Yeah.
Black on black.
Take it back. Kara, thank you for your share. I stepped out just before, but it sounded awesome. Can't wait to talk with you if we get a chance in some other group.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Supriya, and everybody else.
See you Thursday.
Supriya, are you going to be teaching over the medicine Buddha? Are you going to be teaching next week when the medicine Buddha's on?
Hector says yes, yes.
Yeah, we're on. So if you are doing the medicine Buddha, you can still do this because you can do the pre-recorded part of the medicine Buddha. It doesn't conflict. There might be a conflict with the live classes, but I don't think so because Geshe-la's teaching in the mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah, the schedule looks pretty rigorous for the medicine Buddha retreat.
Yeah, if you're into it, you should totally do it. It's worth it. And if you can stretch, some of the people doing meditation teacher training are going to do both, and we got graduation coming up, even through it, but it's worth the effort. Bye, Michelle. Are you waving goodbye? You're staying.
Hi, Sabrina. I have a quick question regarding the retreat.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm wondering if the people from China, they can do it. No. Okay, because my aunt and Chloe's mom is keeping asking me, like, I send the link for them, but they cannot register. So
Yeah, it's not for China because we would be breaking the law and putting people at risk. So no Buddhisty, like we can do business talks and the rest, but we can't go teach Buddha, Dalai Lama. We can't do that. It would be really breaking the law and putting them at risk and everyone that's connected to the retreat at risk. So unless they're living outside of China,
okay,
outside of mainland China. So it's the most respectful thing to do. And Geshe Michael's very strong about it. Yeah.
But, because my aunt is also learning this, and then because we have a trick, you can jump around the restriction in China like we did in the kids program. So do you think if they know that, and then can they do that to join?
I would not. I would tell them, wait till something else. Yeah. It'll be the safest thing, because imagine if they do that and then something goes wrong, and then we can never teach another retreat to anyone, or anything like that. Sure. So that would cut out every entry into China.
Okay, thank you.
But maybe, Yuki, you could give them a link to something that isn't ACI, something that is DCI or an open talk in the knowledge base. I don't know if they can get, and they probably can't get the knowledge base there either. But
no, because because we have been to Diamond Mountain for retreat, that, like, with my mom, and then my mom's in Japan, so she can do that. But my aunt is like, why I cannot? She's keeping asking, so she said, can you ask with Hector and Sabrina to check? That's the reason, I just want to have a check.
yeah,
She really want to do the retreat.
oh, it hurts my heart, but we don't want to risk the whole thing for just one retreat.
I know. Of course. I'm gonna answer my mom, so thank you. Thank you.
Hot pot.
Let's do it. Let's waiting for Chloe to come back New York so we can do in Ming's place if Ming want it.
Yeah, Ming, we're doing it in your place if it's still
So Ming is not hate me.
Thanks, Danielle.
Ming said yes.
Nice.
Thank you. Good.
No, Ming didn't. I'm saying it for him.
Yeah, so
Sydney, I saw your fundraising efforts. You're definitely the queen. You're doing awesome.
And I'm only $3 behind Sachi now. I wasn't gonna come to I literally wasn't gonna come to class so I could like figure out how I'm gonna campaign to fundraise, and now I'm like, it's great, it's working.
Sydney's the competitive winner of Buddhism. She's gonna be at the I won Buddhism. Bye.
Animal, everyone wants Sion. Oh, she didn't look happy.
Yeah, Helena gave me a vitamin D pill, and she's crying because she didn't get one.
Oh.
Yeah.
I do the same when I take vitamin.
That's a lot of wanting vitamins. Anthony, I miss you. It's nice to see you.
I miss you as well, Hector. Thank you, Supriya. Thanks for teaching.
Thank you. I like that your beard gets fluffier every time.
Bye, everybody. You're amazing.
Bye. See everyone Thursday.
Love you all. Thank you.
Love you all. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for teaching.